Welcome all. I know most of you are here because you're friends with Lynn or neighborhoods here in Mount Airy. So if you want to just start typing little messages into the chat, please do that, and then she'll be able to see them.
Where do I see them?
Look in the little chat box.
Okay. All I'm seeing is you, Elliot, right now.
If you go to your upper corner, there's something called view or gallery view. You should change that to gallery view instead of speaker view, and then you'll be able to see everybody pop up.
Now I'm seeing some messages, but I'm seeing nothing else. View options, is that what I should look at?
Yes.
Okay.
And hit gallery.
It says fit to window in original size, maybe, but that
I don't know
doesn't
what
tell
that
me
is.
anything about a gallery. Chat, record. I still don't see.
At the bottom it says chat.
So welcome everyone. Just so you know, this is being recorded.
Oh, there it is.
If
Okay.
you don't want your image to show up, you should have your video turned off. And we will
Okay,
eventually
the chat.
upload this to YouTube so that Lynn can share it with friends and family who couldn't be here tonight. So just know that you're being recorded. I'm going to do some quick intros and then we'll get right to the main show. So my name is Elliot Botsetic, and I am the events coordinator here at Big Blue Marble, which is Lynn's neighborhood bookstore in the Mount Airy neighborhood of Northwest Philadelphia. Big Blue Marble has been here for 15 years last November. We, of course, could not have a party for turning 15, so we'll do something really good for turning 16 this year. We are once again open regular hours after 15 months of first not being open and then barely open. We're here and we're very excited to have people back in the store so that we can talk about books and not just answer your wonderful emails. Our hours now are Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 5:30 p.m. and Sundays, 11 to 4 p.m. Mondays, we order books from all the ones you bought all week, and the store is not open that day, so that we can catch up on work. We are still taking orders by email. We still have a very active web store that has all the newest bestsellers and great curated collections of the kinds of diverse books that our store sells. So please, if you haven't been there before, stop in and visit us. Hang on, let me let people in the room here. So I just quick want to tell you about our next two upcoming events because I'm really excited to be hosting both of these. They're very absolutely representative of our store. So next Monday night we have a wonderful 10 editors and writers from a wonderful local press called Indie Blue. They have a new anthology out called Through the Looking Glass, reflecting on madness and chaos within. And it'll be a wonderful evening of folks reading about their own lived experiences with mental differences and mental illness, and also reflecting on what it is to live with different kinds of mental illness in a society that's also very, very broken right now. So a lot of those people are from this area, not all, but the editor and some of the contributors all live within the broader Philly region. So I'm really excited to host them in. And then on Monday, July 26th, we're going to have an awesome event. A group of girls' high grads who all graduated in 1968 during the pandemic started having Zoom chats with each other and talking about their lives and the times around them and the, racial unrest and police violence and politics. And now that they're all around 70, they realized that this time when everything seemed like it might fall apart felt very much like the year they graduated high school in 1968. So 43 of them wrote essays for this great collection called Unmute Yourself, Girlfriend. And we will have a whole bunch of those um, Girls High alums here reading parts from their essay in the book. It's also, of course, a fundraiser for Girls High because if Girls High graduates are going to have an event, they're going to raise money to help out other young women who are going into or graduating from Girls High. That's going to be a really fun night. It will be serious, and there will also be a ridiculous amount of laughter going on. So I really hope you can pop back over and join us that night. It's really great. And when you register through Eventbrite, you have the option of donating to their scholarship fund, which I highly suggest. So, our feature tonight, I'm so excited. When first Lynn's husband and then Lynn contacted me about this event, I was so excited because this is a homegrown Big Blue Marble book. For many years at the bookstore, Minter Krotzer was our writer in residence running memoir writing workshops and also a memoir book group. And this novel started as a writing exercise in that nonfiction setting and then became fiction. And it's so perfect that this novel has come back home to the bookstore. So I know most of you are here because you're friends of Lynn, but in case you don't know her yet, this is Lynn Gregory. She retired in 2015 from a 40-year career in applied social science research. She holds degrees in anthropology and a doctorate in foundations of education. Most of her professional life was spent conducting anthropological research and teaching at the college level. During that time, she was writing academic manuscripts about all different kinds of subjects. But she also took writing workshops at Big Blue Marble and wrote her first novel that has come out now. She lives in Westmount area, not far from the store, with her husband, a dog, and 3 cats. I understand from right before the event that the animals have been locked out of the room because they are a little rowdy, but I can't guarantee whether or not the husband will be rowdy in the room. Um, and Minter Krotzer will be here to reflect on the work and ask questions and respond to Lynn's work. Minter, as I said, has been a writer in residence at Big Blue Marble for a very long time. Her prose, if you don't know it, has been published in all kinds of literary magazines and anthologies, including Many Mountains Moving, the Arkansas Review, Upstreet, um, Night Train, Louisiana in Words, Hint Fiction. She has done some, maybe you can talk a little about some Minter because I don't have any notes, but I know that there's been a documentary made now about you and Hal and working on redeveloping speech lost to Parkinson's by reciting poetry. That's a really, really moving piece of film. She has done writing residencies and writing awards and is just a really, really powerful writer and teacher of writer who really pulls out from people stories they didn't know they had in them to tell and then helps them shape those stories, which is so profound to have that kind of teacher when you're a writer. So the book that we're here to celebrate and talk about is called The Other Side of a Tapestry. It is, of course, for sale at Big Blue Marble. We have signed editions. Um, it began in this memoir writing workshop from an exercise called Mother Said. And out of that has grown this novel, which is the story of Terry Addison, who's trying to decode a puzzling letter written in Spanish to her deceased mother from a former family maid. What starts out as a translation exercise grows into a complex mystery unraveling through childhood memories and through long buried secrets between Argentina and here, trying to put together painful parts of Argentinian history with how this woman came into her family's life. So let me stop sharing this. So Lynn or Minter, I don't know if you want to do the little introduction here, but it is all yours, Lynn and Minter. Please do keep typing questions and greetings into the chat, and we'll make sure that those get through to Lynn.
Thank you, Elliot. Thank you so much. You are a wonder for this tour. You really are. So thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here to celebrate Lynn's first book. It's a very exciting celebratory occasion. As I said to Lynn, if this weren't in person, we would be having a wine and cheese reception, and right, Elliot? And yes, and it would be, because it's really a celebration is what it is. I actually met my husband at a book party. I wanted to just say that I had forgotten that the assignment came from Mother Said. So I remembered, that it was I remember what Lynn wrote for the assignment, but I forgot that it came from Mother Said. So I need to credit my husband here, because he was the Mother Said assignment came from him, because he wrote a book called Mother Said. So it was all about things that his mother said growing up. And so I stole the idea from him, and many other writers and teachers have stolen that idea from him, because it produces great writing of things that Mother said. But what I remember, well, let me start from the beginning. I remember Lynn coming into the class, and she was for the first time, and she was kind of nervous. She had never been to a writing workshop before, if I recall. And she hadn't done this kind of writing. She had done a lot of writing in her career, but she hadn't done creative writing. And she wasn't nervous or anything, but she was very, upfront about that. She's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this kind of thing. And she took off. She enjoyed all of the assignments. I have to say that I would give prompts every week. And I should also say that my workshops tended to be multi-genre. So they leaned heavily on autobiographical, but I'd throw poetry in there, I'd throw fiction in there, mainly because the fluidity between genres, and so anyway, so the Mother Said, I'd forgotten that it was a Mother Said assignment, but I remember what she wrote. And she wrote this image of looking out of an airplane at the Andes Mountains and flying over that. And it was just such a haunting, powerful image to me. And I think it was so, I think that image was so strong. We all knew in that room that there was a greater story, and and that's, a big thing in writing, is that images lead to stories. So she, throughout the workshop, she'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what, whatever. And everyone was like, we love what you're doing. This is great. So then I finished teaching that workshop and actually stopped teaching. And I'd run into Lynn in the neighborhood, and she's like, I'm writing a novel. I want to write a novel. I'm going to write, first was I want to write a novel, then I'm writing a novel, and then I'm like at this point, and I'm at this point, and it was just so exciting to see that happen, because a lot of people say they want to write a novel or a book or something, and then they don't do it. Life gets in the way. But Lynn was always enthusiastic, always excited, always just enjoyed the pleasure of writing. And that's what it's all about. It's not about getting published. It's about enjoying the pleasure of the writing process. And I do really believe that's how she experienced things, and for her, how it was for her. And so anyway, I'm really excited. And the other thing I wanted to say was that I think it's such an inspiring story that somebody would take a class, you know, and to start writing at a later time in their life, and to have such, you know, and to write a book, you know, and not to think, oh, I'm too old to do this, or, you know, I've got this to do or that to do. It's just an inspiring story, and it really inspires many, many other people. So that's a really important thing for me to say, I think. And so that's it. After Lynn's going to read now. We're very excited to hear her read, and then when she's finished, we're going to open it up for questions and answers. So here's Lynn.
Hello. Thank you, Minter. Thank you for the really kind words. I was really inspired by the workshop, and the Mother Said launched into me a memory on that airplane ride, in which my mother, I was 6 years old, my mother turned to me and said, "You do not love Evita." And she was talking about Evita Peron. That stuck in my mind my whole life, but really came out when I heard that, and I started thinking about it and writing about it. And it ended up in this amazingly fictional account of what could have been. But it's that phrase is in the main character's life as well. So I just wanted to set this a little bit, and thank you so much, and thank you, Elliot. This has been a wonderful experience. I just want to set this chapter because I'm doing it. I chose a chapter that was a little bit later in the book than usual. It's about 2/3 of into the book, and this main character, whose name is Terry, has been exploring, finding out things about her childhood that she never knew. And it's all been leading her towards trying to discover what happened to the maid that her family worked with when she was a child. And her maid's name was Ophelia. The chapter is about a treasure box that the little boy who lived next door to her, when they were 5 years old, she and he created a treasure box and buried it in the backyard. And at the age of 38, she reconnected with him, and he found the treasure box and sent it to her. And this chapter basically tells you how she experienced looking at these treasures from her childhood. So I shall begin. By the end of the week, Terry was going crazy in anticipation of seeing the package from Juan Ignacio, and grateful for the distraction the final days of the semester had provided. When she arrived home from campus on Friday afternoon, she was relieved to find a pink notice indicating the package had arrived and was ready for pickup. Her mind raced as she got back in her car and drove to the post office. She had spent the entire day fearing the package wouldn't be there, and she would have to wait until Saturday or even Monday. It just wouldn't feel real until she had it home. 20 minutes later, the package lay open on Terry's kitchen table. Juan Ignacio had taken pains to protect the box and its contents with padding, not only around the box, but around each item it contained as well. The box was made of wood. The wood had been painted, and although the paint was both faded and flaked in places, it appeared to have been protected from rotting as it sat in the ground. Juan Ignacio had told her the box was protected from the elements because it was wrapped in a piece of rubberized canvas. It was also sealed well enough to prevent water seepage and insect invasion. She was quite certain that the 5-year-old Terry and Juan Ignacio would not have known how to do something like that. Ophelia or some other adult must have prepared and placed the box into the ground. Terry began by unpacking the box itself. As she looked at it, she experienced a flashback memory comparing the treasure box with the older kids' clubhouse. The latter had been constructed out of cardboard boxes and had 2 rooms. The treasure box was made of sturdier material than the clubhouse. The box was made to last, while the clubhouse collapsed with the first rain. As she thought of that, Terry remembered Ophelia bringing her and Juan Ignacio into the kitchen, drying their tears, and giving them each a cookie. What would you like to do now that will make you feel better? Both Terry and Juan Ignacio had ideas for revenge. They wanted to destroy the clubhouse, but they really wanted to make it their own and exclude their siblings from ever using it. Ophelia listened patiently, and when they ran out of revenge thoughts, she said, "Maybe you can make something of your own that is just as special and keep it secret from them. Maybe it being secret makes it even better than a clubhouse that's too big to be a secret." That was when the idea for a treasure box was born. Terry wasn't sure whether the idea was theirs or whether Ophelia had suggested it as a possibility. In retrospect, she was certain Ophelia had been the one to produce the box, either by making it herself or using one she already had access to. Terry lifted the box top and saw that all of the enclosed items had been wrapped with protective plastic. This was obviously the recent work of Juan Ignacio. She wanted to touch and remember them and what they had meant to her. The first item she unwrapped, a red rubber ball, immediately evoked memories of a game they played. She thought it was called Oye. It was a game in which the ball was thrown in the air while the child recited each word or phrase and did what they said. The task had to be completed in time for her to catch the ball. Terry remembered some of the words and what they meant. The ball had a cracked surface and was no longer soft and rubbery, but she was still able to toss it in the air and recite the words she remembered. Oye, oye, sin moverme, sin reírme, con un pie, con una mano. The next part, she remembered clapping hands in front and then in front and back while the ball was in the air, but could not recall the words. That was the most difficult part of the game, but she had mastered it with a lot of practice as a child. The game was finished when you threw the ball into the air, kissed your fingers, and said, "Un beso a Jesus," a kiss to Jesus. And this was her ball, or did it belong to Juan Ignacio? Terry wasn't sure. Putting the ball down carefully, she moved on to the next wrap item, which was a yo-yo. This one was wooden and had also been painted red. While she hadn't thought about yo-yos for a long time, she remembered feeling that she wasn't very good with them. She wanted to do things like her father did with his much slicker yo-yo. He made it sleep and walk the dog. She blamed the awkwardness of the larger, less balanced wooden yo-yo, but in fact had never mastered either of those moves on any yo-yo. Fingering it, she wondered why they had saved it, or even considered it to be a treasure. There were some things she would never know. The next small package housed a zippered pouch filled with a few coins, moneditas. Juan Ignacio had told her there were centavos and other loose coins in the bottom of the box when he first opened it. He must have put them in the box, which looked quite new. This brought up another memory. When they decided to put together their treasure box, she and Juan Ignacio had told Ophelia it couldn't be a treasure box without treasure, like gold doubloons buried by pirates. So Ophelia had taken a few coins from her handbag and placed them in the box. Terry remembered that she and Juan Ignacio had later debated breaking into the box for candy money, but had decided against it because they really liked the idea of digging up treasure sometime in the future. Putting the pouch aside, Terry reached for the last three-dimensional wrapped item. This was in a similar pouch to the one with the coins. It contained the mysterious necklace Juan Ignacio had described over the phone. She totally agreed with him that this wasn't something they had included in the box when they buried it. Picking it up gingerly, Terry felt its heft. The chain and amulets were made of relatively heavy metal, perhaps a silver compound, although it wasn't tarnished. It may have been nickel or some other metal. It was a long chain with amulets locked into each end so they couldn't slide along the chain. Terry tried it on. It felt strange to have equal weights hanging from the front and the back. The amulets themselves were flat, almost square pieces of the same metal with rounded corners. They were identical to one another in size and shape, and only differed in the etchings. As Juan Ignacio had reported, one had what looked like a stylized cat on the front with the name Teresa and her birth date, 15 de junio, 1947 on the back. The other had a stylized wolf and was backed with the name Marissa and the same date. Terry's brain told her this was probably added to the box by Ophelia after the children had buried it, that she had dug it up and added the necklace. Her brain also told her it was obvious that the Teresa amulet referred to her, and the Marissa amulet referred to another person who was born on the same day and could very well be her twin sister. If so, this meant her entire life was a lie. That was when Terry's brain shut down. This was much too much to deal with. She decided to think of it as a puzzle. Terry was good at solving puzzles. And in order to solve this one, she needed much more information. So she began to think of alternative explanations. Maybe Ophelia worked at a hospital or an orphanage where these two children were born on the same day and she'd become attached to them. Maybe it wasn't Ophelia who placed these in the box. Maybe it was another Teresa who just happened to be born on her birthday. There are a lot of possible explanations. Don't jump to conclusions. Terry put the necklace aside and moved on to explore the rest of the box contents, a small pile of children's drawings. The drawings were the most fragile pieces, and Juan Ignacio had been careful to place each one in a padded envelope. Terry opened the first and had to smile. Although faded, she could make out a picture drawn in crayon of a grinning boy and girl holding a treasure box together. The box was blue and had sparkly stars sprinkled over its top. This was fun. She replaced the picture in the envelope and opened the second one. The second picture was of the same two children, a boy and a girl. They were depicted as looking through a fence at 5 gray cats. The only other object in the picture was something resembling a wheelbarrow. I'll bet that was the next door neighbor from Germany's yard, cats and wheelbarrow, Terry said aloud to herself. She remembered being afraid of the man who lived there because he yelled at her, and of the cats by association. She couldn't remember why she was afraid of the cats. Maybe one of them had fought with her kitten, Winky. She went on to the third picture, a car that looked like a Jeep. Juan Ignacio must have drawn that. No, wait. That was the car driven by Dad's British friend who came by every once in a while. What was his name? Al. Yes, his name was Al. It was such a unique car, and all the neighborhood kids liked climbing into it. Most of the time it was open at the top, so they could just scramble over the doors. Al was pretty tolerant of the kids, but I and my siblings were the only ones invited to ride in it. We were the envy of the neighborhood. This was the first time in years Terry had thought about Al. She didn't recall ever seeing him after her family moved to the States. Funny, now that she thought about it, Al and her father always seemed to be such good friends. Terry was astonished by the way her early memories were triggered as she looked at these long-buried artifacts. It was like a whole part of her life had flown out of her mind when she and her family flew over the Andes Mountains all those years ago, when she was told that she no longer loved Evita. It was almost as if her life had divided her into two separate beings with two separate sets of memories, the Argentine child and the American child and woman. There was one more picture. As with the others, Terry opened the envelope carefully. Flooded with new old memories, Terry was reluctant to be finished with her trip down memory lane. This picture looked different. While all of the drawings were clearly made by young children, The faces of the others were rounder and softer. In this picture, there was more detail and each face had a distinctive character. It depicted 4 people, 2 young girls and 2 women, standing in front of some cages. It looked like they were at a zoo. One of the cages held a large cat with a long, fluffy tail. The other cage held what looked like a dog or a wolf-like animal with a cape around its neck. The animals were looking through their respective cages with large smiles on their faces. All the girls wore braids and the women had ponytails. All 4 had dark hair, were holding hands with each other, and also had large smiles on their faces. But beyond that, you could tell they were different people by slight variations in face shapes, expressions, and even body posturing. Terry stared at the picture for a long time. She was struck by the fact that it had been drawn with a level of artistic sophistication that wasn't evident in the others. She was somehow sure she was one of the children and that Ophelia was one of the women in the picture, but couldn't remember such an event. Actually, it was her mother who had given her the memory of going to the zoo once because she apparently was intent on watching an elephant pee for a good 5 minutes. That was a family story that was repeated over the years, but the picture didn't include her blonde mother or an elephant. For that matter, did she go to the zoo with Ophelia at another time? She just couldn't remember. Leaning back in her chair, Terry's mind began to spin. Ever since she had begun her search for Ophelia, each new bit of information seemed to generate a dozen new questions. This has been such a strange experience. It's almost as if seeing and touching these objects have either brought back very specific memories I had completely lost or caused me to question whether they were ever real. Is this because I lost my fluency and ability to think in Spanish? And who is Marissa? Ta-da!
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was so exciting to hear that read.
Oh,
Really was.
thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to open it up for questions and answers. And basically, this is what we do if the event is live, usually. And you can basically ask any kind of question you want. And I have a bunch of questions. And you would just type it in the chat, and I will monitor them and ask them. I'll read them to you, Lynn, so you don't have to worry about that, okay? And then I also have too, if we ever slow down, you know, if people don't have questions, I can ask some questions. So the first question is from Susan Dukow, or if that's how you pronounce it. She loved it, and do we ever find out about Marissa? Is her question.
Yes.
You have to buy the book and read it. Yes, you do find out about Marissa. Does anyone else have a question, or can I ask one of mine? Okay, I'm going to ask a question. Okay, Lynn?
Mm-hmm.
Elliot, is it okay do I need to type my questions in, or, well, I'm just going to read.
No, you can just ask yours. That's totally fine.
Okay. All right. Okay. Lynn, I wanted to know, to talk about, this is a question that people are always really interested in, is, what about your writing process? Could you describe your writing process, and just, you know, how you, I guess that's one question. The other one that I had was there ever a decision between whether wanting to make this nonfiction or fiction, or did you know right away it was going to be fiction?
No, yes, I knew right away it was going to be fiction. The memoir writing workshop was it was fun to do that, but I'm much more interested in writing fiction. I spent my entire career writing nonfiction, And this was like a way to branch out and use my imagination and, have fun with stories, which is what this was. It was, asking you about writing process, I mean, I could spend 10 hours talking about my writing process, and I kind of learned it as I went along. But one of the odd things, I suppose, was that I found that I would wake up every morning with some new idea of what I wanted to include in the story. But I write very fast. So I got the draft written in about 6 months. And then I spent a long time revising. And with this book, I shared it with a lot of people. I shared it with you, Minter, and I shared it with a lot of my friends. And my husband had to deal with it every day. And, so there was a lot of input today.
Thank you. We have a question that came in from Katie Commons. She said she loved the respectful relationships in the book, people being honest about the space they need, etc., without a lot of drama outside of the actual drama of the book. Did you actively decide to convey healthy relationships?
Hi, Katie. Yes. I think that the relationships, especially, I want to say between men and women, but among women too, that's just what I like. So that's what I wrote. This may be the only novel I ever write, but I just wanted to write something that I enjoyed and characters that I liked. So that's all I can say.
That's what Toni Morrison says. Write the book that you want to read. And Katie has an additional question. There are some open questions at the end. I'm not going to say what those are so we won't ruin that for other people. Will there be a sequel?
So this year, the pandemic year, I wrote another novel, which has been fully drafted. It still has work. I started a sequel to this first book at the same time and wrote about 2 chapters, and then got more interested in the other book, so I put it down. But yeah, if I live long enough, there will definitely be a sequel, because I do understand the need to answer some of those questions. And for myself, because I don't know what happened with some of these people. I ended it the way I like to read. I like when I read a book, I like to be so interested in the characters that I want to read about them again, basically. And so I sort of did that for myself.
Thank you. And then we have Julian Remus wants to know, since this story was born out of a memoir exercise, in what ways is Terry like you, and in what ways is she different?
Oh, Julie. I've known Julie since she was 7 years old, so I can tell you, she knows me. I think Terry is like a better me in some way. Well, not exactly. I mean, we share some biography. There's no doubt about it. But there are things that she does that I wouldn't do, and there are things that I do that she wouldn't do. So she's a variation on me. I don't know how to say it. It's not like 100%, but it's definitely, as a new fiction author, I have to say, I can only write somebody that I can know. I can't go way beyond my imagination. And so the lot of characters in the book are based on people I know. Terry probably comes closer to me than any of the other characters. Maybe a combination of Terry and Marissa. I don't know.
And then Carla Campbell wants to know, how did you dream up such a creative ending at the end of the book? And now that question is going to make everyone want to run out and get the book. So how did you dream up such a creative ending?
I that's a good question. I mean, I think that was I wrote an ending early on that didn't end up being the ending. And you're asking about my process. I having to write so much nonfiction, I had to write filler until I could fill it, and so I'm very good at leaving those blanks. But you have to have something there, and so it's I don't know, Carla. Sorry, I really don't know. It just sort of eventually came to me, and I think that I always throughout the writing wanted things to make a certain kind of a sense. You know, I wanted the characters to be consistent with who they were in their behavior, and I didn't want things to be too obvious. I remember talking with you, Minter, where when one of the things that you read, you said there are too many coincidences. And so I took out a lot of coincidences and just kept the most important ones. And I think in some level, the end allows for, you know, an important coincidence.
Thank you. Okay, I have here's another question from, I'm going to pronounce this name wrong. Anek Edson.
Annika.
Did you have, how do you pronounce it?
Annika.
Annika. Did you have fun writing your book? What was the most fun part of writing this? Actually, I had a very similar question. I want to know, what did you enjoy the most? So what was the most fun part?
I loved writing this book. It was like what I woke up with and every day, and it was just really, really fun. I think creating the story, creating the characters. When I first started, I had never written dialogue, and I learned how to write dialogue, and I think I probably almost overwrote dialogue because I love it so much. So that was a lot of fun. I loved, you know, sort of being in that place with these people interacting with each other and trying to imagine what they would do, what they would say, how it would come out. You know, it was just a really fun thing to do, the whole thing.
And I'm going to throw out, what didn't you like? What was hard about the process? Or what did you not like about it?
I guess finding a publisher, you know, I mean, or thinking that you have to do that, you know, feeling like you're, you know, that I don't care for the business aspect of it at all. The writing, I love writing, and I can, you know, I can play with that forever, but I don't want to think about the other part.
Yeah. And then I also wanted to know, you went to Argentina, didn't you? Since you wrote the book, didn't you go?
No, I haven't been there. My sister who is here, Diane, and I are going to be hopefully going in October. But right now they are shut down with COVID. And so we aren't sure we're going to be able to get, you know, they've shut everybody out. But this will be my first time back. Diane has been there more recently, but it'll be my first time since I was 6 years old. And she's going to show me around the neighborhood where we got a bed and breakfast in the neighborhood we lived in. And I'm wondering if my memories will come back. I mean, I remember weird things, but, you know, I was pretty young, so.
Thank you.
That's the plan.
We have another. Yeah, that's exciting. So here's a question from Sarah to everyone. It's not a question, it's a comment. You write so beautifully, but hearing you read reminded me of you reading to me as a child, and your style of reading paints such wonderful imagery. Thank you for those memories, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Sarah.
I don't have any more questions. I don't know if anyone else does. Oh, wait, here's one, maybe. Someone's just thanked us for being here, and for you reading and answering the questions. and that you're going on your trip to Argentina.
Thank you. Thanks.
Minter, do you see the question from Jerry's Galaxy phone?
Oh, I just did. Thank you. Here's another question. Thank you for pointing that out. Your main character's childhood is revealed to her as the mystery unfolds. Being that the story began with bits and pieces of your biography, did the writing process reveal anything to you about your own childhood? If so, would you be willing to share?
Yes. Yeah, it helped me to remember things. I want to say that the memoir writing workshop brought things up there that I really actually experienced. I mean, a lot of the childhood experiences were kind of mine. I mean, I not having been there, in all these years, my imagination couldn't have done all of that. And when I started putting them into the story, I started remembering more details about what they were like. The song or the ball game, for instance, that was a real ball game we played, and I literally don't remember what the words were for clapping your hands in front and back. So I just sort of incorporated that in the story. It's a real mixed bag, but yeah, it's a mixed bag. It was very, I guess, sort of in a lot of ways, sort of therapeutic for me to bring me back to that and really increase my desire to go back to Argentina and just walk around, and get a feel for where we were. I know it's changed, obviously, but yeah. Wish I could be much more specific, but
I think that was an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else think that they would like to share or add? Or, well, we're excited that you have another project.
Thank you.
Can't wait to that. Yeah. I think that's all, right? And Elliot, do you have anything you want to say?
Hang on, I'm
close
just
us?
seeing a message. Dell, the message that you just typed came only to me, not into the chat. And I don't want to mangle the Spanish. Do you want to unmute and say it out loud yourself?
What was that?
I'm
sorry.
Message.
I didn't hear.
There was a message from Dell that came directly only to me.
Okay, that's from me. It says Dell. I'm her sister, Diane.
Oh.
And the bottom part was batando las manos atrás y adelante y atrás. Was the rest of it.
Thank you. That's what we do with the hands.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for remembering.
Yeah, I thought clapping. It's clapping in front and clapping in back. And then she's batando las manos y atrás y adelante. They got batando las manos and atrás y adelante. They had to do it back and forward fast before you caught the ball.
Right. That's what I remember most. Muchas gracias, mi hermana.
It'll be interesting to figure out or what you remember when we go down back to Olivos. I'm just hoping that the government cooperates with us.
Yeah, me too.
Well, Lynn, mainly congratulations. This is an amazing accomplishment.
Thank you.
And
thank you for, Big Blue Marble and Elliot for taking me on. This is the first store that my books are in, and I actually got to see them. It was like, wow, my books are in the store. I mean, they've been on, virtual and on Amazon and stuff like that, but to actually see them, and that's my favorite way to buy books anyway, is to browse. And I do love that store because it's so doable. It's a fairly small space, but all the good stuff is in there. And I also really, really have to thank Minter again. That workshop was my transition from work to life in a way, she was correct. I was so happy every time we did it. And we'd have these prompts like the color red. I dream about things in red. You know, I would like, it was just such a cool experience. But now I'm totally addicted to writing fiction. So we'll see what happens.
That author experience, Lynn, is called seeing the book in the wild. Like when you see it on a table in some bookstore, you've seen your book in the wild. So
Okay.
although if it's around the corner from your house, it's not so wild, but
Right,
really
right.
wild experience. So
Well, it's going to be in a few other places in the next few months, but I also want to thank everyone who showed up. I'm so happy you came.
I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Oh, thank you, Diane.
And I do have to say, I'm very proud of my little sister. She's accomplished a whole lot in her life, and it's been kind of fun to watch it happen. She's the one in the family that actually made a plan for her life and lived it, which I think is just admirable.
Thank you very much.
Minter, somebody's asking in chat, are you still doing any workshops online?
I am actually thinking about doing a Zoom workshop to generate writing. I am thinking about doing that. So
why don't you
if
type
you're interested,
why don't you type your email?
Yeah, if you're interested, there's my email. Yeah, and it would be multi-genre. I've actually, Lynn, I've been writing fiction myself lately.
So can I ask you a question, Minter? Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So when we were back when you were first talking to me about what I was doing, you had something like a 3-volume story going, and you were writing a book, and then you were going to break it up in 3 because it was getting too long, and it sounded like a great saga. Whatever happened to that book?
It gave me writer's block, is what happened to it.
Not good.
Yeah, yeah, it did. I'm writing short stories now and poetry, prose poetry.
Nice. Well, you got to share.
Yeah, I might go back to it. It's in a closet right now. Which is what I mean, that's why I give you, applaud a finished book, because mine's finished. It just needs editing. So
yeah, well, you got to go back and start reading it then, and I think that when you read it, you find out that you like it better than you thought you did, if you step away from it.
Yeah.
Now I'm giving you advice. Ha, that's great.
I know. It's been so great. You guys asked great questions. I really was really impressed with the questions, actually. So anyway, so
Lynn and
Minter,
Minter,
I don't have anything else.
Thank you.
You're welcome
so much. And this has been delightful. It takes a couple days to get it processed and up online, but once it's ready to do that, I'll email Lynn and I'll do a follow-up email with folks so that you can find it online. And it'll be on the store's YouTube channel so that you can go see it. And just thank you all so much for spending your Monday night here with us in our virtual little bookstore space. And our actual bookstore event space is so small that this is bigger than that. So we could never fit 30 people in the actual store. So it's very exciting to have people come to these Zoom events. It's virtual reality, but that is a kind of reality that is very real. So we're so excited to see all of you. And check our events for things that are coming up, because we've got other great events coming up always on Monday nights at 7. So I hope to see some of you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Good night.